Have Beth and Rip finally found the enemy who has been destroying their future from the shadows? Because if the Dutton Ranch Episode 5 trailer is telling us the truth, then the war everyone feared is no longer coming. It has already begun. A shocking discovery, a dangerous secret, and a decision that could change everything forever. Beth Dutton is done playing defense, Rip Wheeler is running out of patience, and the person responsible for the ranch's nightmare may have just made the biggest mistake of their life. But what happens when two people who have already lost everything decide they have nothing left to fear? Episode 5 might not just be the most explosive episode of the season. It could be the moment the entire story changes forever. The biggest thing that stands out in the Episode 5 trailer is not the cattle outbreak. It is not the financial pressure. It is not even the growing threat surrounding the ranch itself. The biggest thing is the look on Beth's face. Because for the first 4 episodes of Dutton Ranch, Beth has been reacting to problems as they appeared. Every crisis seemed unexpected. Every challenge felt like something she and Rip had to survive one day at a time. But something changes in Episode 5. For the first time all season, Beth looks like a woman who finally understands exactly who she is fighting. And that changes everything. The trailer makes it clear that the cattle disease crisis is reaching a breaking point. The ranch cannot continue absorbing losses forever. Every animal that gets sick represents more than just money. It represents years of work, years of planning, and years of hope. Beth and Rip did not come to Texas looking for an easy life. They came because they wanted a chance to build something that belonged to them. They wanted a future that could not be taken away by the ghosts of their past. But now that future is hanging by a thread. What makes this situation even more terrifying is that the outbreak no longer feels like an accident. In fact, Episode 5 seems to be pushing us toward one major revelation. Somebody wanted this to happen. Think about everything that has happened since the beginning of the season. The ranch purchase should have been a fresh start. Instead, problems began appearing almost immediately. Small setbacks turned into bigger setbacks. Unexpected obstacles started stacking on top of each other. Then came the diseased cattle. Then came the growing financial pressure. Then came the increasing feeling that someone was always one step ahead of Beth and Rip. At some point, coincidence stops looking like coincidence. And I think Beth has finally reached that point. One of the most fascinating things about Beth Dutton has always been her ability to see patterns that other people miss. She notices details. She remembers conversations. She pays attention to motives. While other people focus on what is happening right in front of them, Beth is usually trying to understand why it is happening. That is why the trailer feels so important. There is a brief moment where Beth appears completely focused, almost as if a missing piece of the puzzle has suddenly fallen into place. It is not fear we see. It is not panic. It is recognition. And if Beth has figured out who is behind this attack, then the person responsible should be very worried. Because Beth does not forgive. She does not forget. And she certainly does not walk away. The trailer strongly suggests that Beth's investigation is about to become much more aggressive. Instead of simply trying to save the ranch from the latest disaster, she appears determined to uncover the source of every disaster that came before it. That shift is incredibly important because it means the story is no longer about surviving problems. It is about finding the person creating them. And there is one name that keeps coming back into the conversation: Bula. From the very beginning, Bula has felt different from the typical enemy. Most rivals make their presence known. Most villains enjoy threatening people directly. Most opponents want everyone to know exactly who they are. Bula operates differently. She works quietly. She stays patient. She lets other people underestimate her. That is exactly what makes her dangerous. While Beth and Rip have been struggling to keep their ranch alive, Bula appears to have been building influence behind the scenes. Every move she makes seems calculated. Every decision feels intentional. And Episode 5 may finally reveal just how long she has been planning this. If the outbreak was deliberate, then this conflict goes far beyond business competition. This becomes personal. Very personal. Because attacking someone's cattle is one thing. Attacking their dream is something else entirely. The ranch represents more than land to Beth and Rip. It represents a second chance. It represents survival. It represents proof that they can still build a future despite everything life has thrown at them. Anyone trying to destroy that is not just attacking their property, they are attacking their identity. And that is why episode 5 feels so dangerous. The people who know Beth best understand that she can endure almost anything. She can survive pain. She can survive loss. She can survive betrayal, survive loss. She can survive betrayal. What makes her truly terrifying, however, is what happens after she survives. She fights back. That is exactly where the trailer seems to be taking us. For 4 episodes, we have watched pressure build from every direction. We have watched uncertainty grow. We have watched Beth and Rip struggle to keep control of a situation that seemed impossible to understand. Now the confusion is disappearing. The target is becoming clear. And when Beth finally locks onto a target, there is usually no turning back. But there is another reason this episode feels different. Rip Wheeler. The trailer suggests that Rip is reaching his limit. Throughout the season, Rip has focused on protecting the ranch. He has focused on protecting Beth. He has focused on solving problems one at a time. But there comes a point where even someone as patient as Rip realizes that survival alone is not enough. Sooner or later, the threat has to be confronted. And episode 5 may be the moment Rip decides that enough is enough. Because the man we see in the trailer does not look defeated. He does not look overwhelmed, he looks determined. And that should make every enemy nervous. Because when Beth and Rip are struggling separately, they are dangerous. But when they are united against a common enemy, they become something far more powerful. They become unstoppable. And judging by everything the trailer is showing us, that unstoppable force is finally moving into action. The question now is not whether a war is coming. If episode 5 is truly the beginning of a war, then the most important question is not who started it. The most important question is what the enemy really wants. Because the deeper I look at everything that has happened so far this season, the more convinced I become that the cattle outbreak was never the final objective. It was only the first step in a much larger plan. Think about it. If someone wanted to destroy Beth and Rip financially, there are easier ways to do it. If someone wanted to scare them away from Texas, there are faster ways to do it. But what we have seen throughout the season feels much more deliberate than that. Every setback has arrived at exactly the right moment. Every problem has forced Beth and Rip to focus their attention somewhere else. Every crisis has pulled them further away from seeing the bigger picture. That is not random. That is strategy. And if Bula is truly behind all of this, then episode 5 may finally reveal how long this strategy has been in motion. One thing the trailer keeps emphasizing is the growing pressure surrounding the ranch itself. Notice how the story keeps returning to the land. Not the cattle, not the money, the land. That detail matters. Because land has always been the heart of every Dutton story. Land represents power. Land represents legacy. Land represents control. Whoever controls the land controls the future. And I think Bula understands that better than anyone. The more we learn about her, the clearer her motivations become. She is not interested in quick victories. She is not interested in temporary gains. She wants something permanent. She wants ownership. She wants control. Most importantly, she wants Beth and Rip to lose faith in their ability to hold on to what they have built. That is why the disease outbreak feels so calculated. It attacks confidence. It creates fear. It creates uncertainty. Every day Beth and Rip spend trying to save their herd is another day they are not focused on protecting themselves from whatever comes next. And according to the trailer, whatever comes next could be far worse. There is a feeling throughout the episode 5 footage that time is running out. The characters move differently. They speak differently. The atmosphere feels heavier. For the first time this season, it feels like the consequences of failure are becoming impossible to ignore. If the ranch falls, everything falls with it. The dream is gone. The future is gone. The fresh start they fought so hard to create disappears. That reality is beginning to settle in for both Beth and Rip, and it is changing the way they approach this fight. What makes this situation especially dangerous is that Beth appears to realize she is not dealing with an ordinary rival. She is dealing with someone who studies people, someone who understands weaknesses, someone who knows exactly how to manipulate events without exposing herself. That kind of opponent is difficult to defeat because the battle is never happening where you think it is. While everyone else is focused on today's crisis, she is already planning next month's victory. That is exactly why Beth's growing awareness feels so important. For most of the season, she has been reacting. Now she is starting to anticipate. And that shift could completely change the balance of power. But there is another layer to this story that episode 5 seems ready to explore. And it could be even more dangerous than the ranch crisis itself, secrets. The Dutton family has never been short on secrets. In fact, some of the biggest disasters in Dutton history started because hidden truths eventually found their way into the light. Every family has things they would rather keep buried. The Duttons have enough buried secrets to fill an entire ranch. And according to the trailer, someone is digging. That is where Hamy's name becomes impossible to ignore. For several episodes now, it has felt like the story has been quietly building toward a revelation involving Jamie. Not because he has been at the center of the action, but because his absence feels intentional. The writers keep reminding us that there are unanswered questions surrounding him. Questions that somebody may finally be trying to answer. If Bula has truly been investigating the Dutton family, then Jamie represents one of the most valuable sources of leverage imaginable. Because leverage is power, and power is Bula's favorite weapon. She does not need guns. She does not need threats. She does not need violence. Information can be far more destructive. A single secret exposed at the right moment can do more damage than an entire army. Beth understands that, probably better than anyone. That is why I think episode 5 could push Beth into one of the most desperate investigations we have seen all season. She is not just looking for evidence anymore. She is looking for answers before somebody else finds them first. And the clock is ticking. The trailer hints at multiple moments where Beth seems unusually focused, almost obsessed with putting together pieces of a puzzle that nobody else can see yet. She understands something that Rip may not fully understand at this point. Winning the ranch battle might not be enough, because if Bula gains access to the right information, the fight could spread far beyond Texas. It could become a war against the entire Dutton legacy. That possibility raises the stakes higher than ever before. Suddenly, this is no longer a story about diseased cattle. It is no longer a story about business competition. It is no longer a story about surviving a difficult season. It becomes a story about protecting everything the Dutton name represents. And that is where Beth becomes most dangerous. People often assume Beth's greatest strength is her intelligence. Others think it is her fearlessness. Some believe it is her willingness to fight harder than everyone around her. The truth is that her greatest strength is loyalty. Beth can endure unbelievable punishment when she is fighting for herself. But when she is fighting for people she loves, there is almost no limit to what she is willing to do. The trailer suggests that episode 5 is pushing her directly into that mindset. Every threat against the ranch feels personal. Every attack feels deliberate. Every clue points toward a larger conspiracy. And the closer Beth gets to the truth, the more explosive the situation becomes. Because the moment she confirms her suspicions, there will be no more investigating, no more waiting, no more uncertainty. There will only be action. And if the trailer is giving us an accurate preview of what lies ahead, then that moment may arrive much sooner than anyone expects. The real question is whether Beth and Rip discover the full truth before Bula completes the next phase of her plan. Because if everything we have seen so far was only the opening move, then the most devastating attack of the season may still be waiting just around the corner. One of the reasons episode 5 feels so important is because it may finally answer a question that has been hanging over this story since the very beginning. What happens when Beth Dutton stops trying to survive and starts trying to win? For the past 4 episodes, Beth and Rip have been fighting battles they never asked for. Every time they solved one problem, another appeared. Every time they thought they were making progress, something pulled them backward. It has felt like they were constantly reacting to forces outside their control. But the trailer suggests that dynamic is about to change. For the first time all season, Beth looks like someone who has stopped waiting for answers and started making decisions. And if that is true, then everyone around her should be paying attention. Because Beth, at her most dangerous, is not the version of Beth who is angry. It is the version of Beth who is focused. Anger burns hot and fast. Focus is cold, focus is patient, focus is calculated. And episode 5 seems to be showing us a Beth who has transformed all of her frustration, fear, and determination into a single objective: find the truth, no matter what it costs. What makes this especially fascinating is that Beth is beginning to realize something that may have been true all along. The ranch was never the real target. At first, that idea sounds impossible. After all, every major problem this season has centered around the ranch: the disease outbreak, the financial losses, the growing pressure from outside forces. Everything seems connected to the property. But what if the ranch is only a way to get to Beth and Rip? What if somebody understands that the fastest way to hurt them is not through direct confrontation? What if the goal has always been to attack the things they care about most? That possibility changes the entire story. Because suddenly, every event begins to look different. The outbreak is not just an outbreak. The financial pressure is not just financial pressure. The obstacles are not just obstacles. They become pieces of a larger strategy designed to wear Beth and Rip down emotionally before delivering the final blow. And if that theory is correct, then Bula may be far more dangerous than anyone realized. The trailer repeatedly creates the feeling that she is operating with information other people do not have. She always seems prepared. She always seems calm. Even when problems appear, she never looks surprised. That confidence has to come from somewhere. People do not act that way unless they believe they are in control. And right now, Bula clearly believes she is in control of this entire game. But control can disappear very quickly, especially when Beth Dutton starts uncovering secrets. One of the things that makes Beth such a compelling character is her refusal to accept surface-level explanations. When someone tells her a story, she wants to know what they are leaving out. When someone presents a fact, she wants to know who benefits from it. That mindset has helped her survive some of the darkest moments of her life. And it may be exactly what saves the ranch now. Because the more clues Beth uncovers, the more likely it becomes that she will eventually find the one mistake Bula did not account for. Every strategist makes mistakes. Every planner overlooks something. Even the smartest people eventually become overconfident. The question is whether Bula has already crossed that line. The trailer hints that she may have. There is a growing sense that her operation is expanding faster than she can fully control. The more people involved in a plan, the harder it becomes to keep every detail hidden. The more moving pieces there are, the greater the chance that one of them breaks. Beth knows this. She knows that secrets have weight. The bigger the secret, the harder it becomes to carry. And if Bula has spent months or even years building this scheme, then somewhere there is a weakness waiting to be discovered. The challenge is finding it before it is too late. Meanwhile, Rip Wheeler appears to be approaching the situation from a completely different angle. While Beth is searching for answers, Rip seems focused on consequences. That distinction matters. Beth wants to understand the enemy. Rip wants to stop the enemy. Both approaches are necessary, but they can also create tension. Because the closer Rip gets to the truth, the harder it becomes for him to remain patient. The trailer shows a version of Rip that feels noticeably different from earlier episodes. He looks less willing to compromise, less interested in negotiation, less interested in giving people the benefit of the doubt. And honestly, can anyone blame him? From his perspective, everything he has worked for is under attack. The ranch is suffering. Beth is under enormous pressure. The future they imagine together is becoming increasingly uncertain. There comes a point where even the most disciplined person starts asking a simple question: how much more are we supposed to take? I think episode 5 is the moment Rip reaches that point. Not because he loses control, but because he finally decides that enough is enough. That decision could have enormous consequences moving forward, because when Rip commits to something, he commits completely. There are no half measures, no second thoughts, no easy exits, and if he truly believes somebody is threatening Beth or the ranch, then there is very little he will not do to protect them. That is exactly why the title of this trailer feels so significant. Beth and Rip start a war. Not Beth, not Rip. Beth and Rip together. That detail matters because their greatest strength has always been their partnership.